Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Motivation Monday. And as you already know, it's Monday, so we're gonna talk about some motivation. Today's motivation is gonna be a little bit different. Last week was also a little bit different. I noticed some of y'all, like 5 of you, watched the video, but that's okay. Today, I want to talk about death, and more importantly, I want to talk about why you should be willing to accept that it's gonna happen to you. And I know that sounds a little crazy or like off color, but I got an explanation for it, and I'll share some personal anecdotes as well. Just for FYI, as you already know, here are the rules for Mondays. I don't edit a damn thing, okay? So if you don't like the intros, you think I'm talking too much, or if you want me to just get into the content, I'm probably not the creator for you. Or maybe I am, I don't know. I've got other videos that you could watch that, have intros and all that jazzy editing and shit. The second one, a lot of what I say comes straight from my dome. I really try not to echo thoughts of other people. I try to come up with my own ideologies, my own thought process. So if that works with you, then hey, great. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. And thirdly, I'm outside, so it might be a little windy, it might be a little noisy. There's some things I can't control. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So when I was 17, my brother Didier was killed. And he was murdered, right? Full transparency, you could talk about that. And the detectives came to my house at 6 in the morning, and they proceeded to let me know that my brother had died. Now granted, I was a senior in high school, so I was like 16 turning 17. I have a late birthday. So 16 turning 17, and at that point in my life, I was like, there isn't really much I could do about this situation. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't thinking about it in any sort of stoic capacity. Like my brother, I just got news that my brother had been killed, right? So what choice did I have outside of going to school to try and get out of that thought process? So the things that I've learned throughout that time, I think one of the most important things is when my brother, because he was killed in his car, my brother's car was a mess, right? So there was a lot of biological matter in the car. There was a lot of, more biological matter in the car. I can't be that explicit. I mean, I think I can go to the extent of brain matter, because he was shot in the head. And I don't talk about this story as though I'm proud of it. There's nothing to be proud of when someone gets shot, right? Like, the surviving family of someone who died from a gunshot, in theory, would have to replay that thought over and over again for the rest of their life. But none of what I'm saying is because, I'm proud of it or whatever the case. But there's something in that moment I want to try and extrapolate and bring to you. So when we went down to the precinct had its own collection of like junk cars or whatever, and my brother's car was wrapped up. It had the crime scene tape and stuff like that. Anyway, he was a very hardworking man. He worked hard for his car, and he bought it with the money that he worked hard for. When we got the car back, we got the car towed back to the house, and when we got it towed back, the tape was still there. Nothing was clean, essentially. So we had one of two options. We could junk the car, or we can keep the car. Now, the way I seen it was, my brother worked so hard for that vehicle, I wanted to keep it in the family, right? Kind of like a family vehicle. So I took it upon myself at that age of 17 to clean it. And again, going back to the brain and biological matter, when I tell you the shit I seen, first of all, the things that I seen at that age, I don't think anyone should see it, let alone a kid, right? And as a 16-year-old who had to identify the body for his family because mom couldn't do it, and then on top of that, I had to sit there with the funeral director and go over funeral arrangements and relay the message back to my parents, and then from there go to the burial, and afterwards then clean the car. Man, let me tell you, when I opened that car door, the death, I seen shit that you should only see in the military. Yeah, and even then, it's not okay, right? But nonetheless, I cleaned out the vehicle. I cleaned it out, and it's a crazy thing to think about. You know, one minute you're alive, and then the next minute you're gone. You know, there's something so fascinating about death. And I don't say that as if I can't wait for it. I love life. I think what I hate the most about life are just other people. That is the misanthrope in me. That's always a good video for another day. But for the most part, you know, I do appreciate life. I love life. I love the experience. I love being here. I think it's cool. But I also know at some point it's going to end, you know. And there's like a fucking bag tarp over here making a hell of noise, so bear with me. So again, I don't say that as if, you know, you should look forward to dying. I don't think anyone necessarily needs to look forward to dying, but I think there's a degree of like, hey, however these chips fall is how they fall. Because I think that to an extent there's some liberation there. You know, my brother passing away taught me that life can be taken from you at any moment, and if you truly feel as though you're living a life you shouldn't be living, or you're living a life to where you're not living up to your potential or anything of that nature, I think it's incumbent on you as a human being, and a human being with some hope, right? Like, we all have dreams and stuff. I think it's important for us to make that decision and say that we want to live that life. You know, why do you think there's midlife crises and things of that nature? Because people get to a certain age and they're like, holy shit, man, I'm gonna fucking die soon. I'm gonna die soon. And if I don't actually like do what I want to do, what kind of life is that? My biggest fear in this world isn't so much of dying. It's more so of like, you know, what if I live a life that I spent the last 20, 30 years working away for a company that didn't even give a fuck about me. You know, back in 2021, early 2022, I was working in tech. And, you know, I went to school for tech sales. And, you know, I went to school, graduated, got a tech job. I lived, for the most part, I lived that kind of like corporate life, which was kind of nice. I mean, I was in sales, right? So the company would fly me to conferences. I was making enough money to where I could fly somewhere else, and I was working remote. So I was able to do all those things, and I had a good amount of freedom. But there was something about it that just made me feel unfulfilled, and not unfulfilled from a perspective of like, oh, I need to, you know, help millions of people, or there's some overarching altruistic vision that I have for my life. Not to the extent to which it would involve the globe, but of course in my immediate area, in my immediate community, then sure, that's a possibility. But for me, one thing it led me to realize is that the idea of working at the behest of a company for potentially decades, if you're lucky, if I'm lucky, just didn't bode well for me. I don't know. I grew up to be a very artistic kid. I played the guitar, I make music, I still do those things, you know. And as I got older, I fell into writing. I wrote a fitness book. I have plans for other books that I'd like to write. I started doing other things and other ventures as well. You know, I was blessed enough to have the experience and continue to model, to act, which is great, especially as I get into my older age, now that I'm turning 32, or 33, I should say, being that I am. Those are the things that I want to do with my life, and I want to continue to make, or if not, at least grow into the capacity of being able to make thought-provoking things that would in some ways reverberate throughout society. But I know I couldn't do that working for a tech conglomerate. You know what I mean? You can't, I don't know, in my personal opinion, I think it's hard to manage a 9-to-5 and a dream that would demand almost as much of your time as said 9-to-5. Like, how do you find, where's the delineation there? Like, how do you break those two things apart? And you can. I think eventually you have to give one up for the other. And I think that's what we see a lot of in today's society. A lot of people live quiet lives of desperation. And looking at the time now, it's already been about 9 minutes. So I'm not going to continue talking. I've got somebody waiting for me here, so we're going to get ready to go soon. But what I would say is, for a lot of people, and I think guys especially, so listen up. because I think this is the most important part. If you don't get anything from what I've said the last 10 minutes, at least get this part. A lot of us die in our early 20s, not physically, but just like mentally, right? A lot of us die in our late 20s, especially for men. Some men, you know, you graduate high school or you have what you think is the peak of your life, and then it's gone. And then you spend like the next 2-3 decades just waiting to die. Yo, I'm telling you, just think about this. Like, walk around your town, your city, talk to people. People out here are waiting to die. They're waiting to die. Why do you think so many people are happy about the shit like the rapture or you know, World War III or whatever the case may be? People hate their lives. They hate their lives, fam. I'm telling you. People are living quiet lives of desperation and they hate that shit. So they take it out on you. Some people are just fucking miserable, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of gender. I know y'all niggas like to pin shit on one specific group. Not here, buddy. I think we're all shit human beings and we all have the propensity to be awful to each other. But for the most part, a lot of us are living quiet lives of desperation. So here's what I want to say. As a side note, Big Water brought to you by Alpha Line. I'm not sponsored by them. I just do a lot of UGC work for them. So make sure you go out there, get you some Alpha Line gear, get you some Alpha Line supplements. I'm not going to get paid, so, you know, don't be mad at me for that. But all I'm trying to say, guys, is, you know, it's one thing to live a life trying to strive for a goal. It's another thing living a life forcing yourself to suppress a dream or something you really wanted to do because you were afraid to go out there and do it. That's just my personal opinion, you know? So with that being said, I'm gonna leave y'all to it. You know, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you've been listening, I appreciate you for, you know, taking the time out of your day to listen to this. We got more debaucherous videos on the way later this week. The membership is here. I'm not gonna lie, I really don't know what to do with the membership. I would love to be able to service you guys in some capacity. But let me know what that would be. Like, what kind of service would you want? Like, I'm not in the business of trying to sell people shit. I don't sell, I create, right? I'm an artist first these days. But let me know. Like, I'm still into fitness. I'm still a coach. I still have my coaching credentials. You know, I can still do life coaching. What do you feel you guys need that you think I could possibly provide? And maybe I'm just talking out of my ass and no one's gonna answer me. That's probably gonna be the case, but hey, I might as well throw it out there and see the universe, right? Anyway, I'm gonna go finish this hike. I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace. Oh, you're gonna die soon, so.